Hey, how y'all doing? Brandon with Voodoo Forge here. Now, I'm going to do a quick video showing you 3 types of fire poker ends that you do not have to forge weld. These are not super nice ones. These are just utilitarian fire poker. Well, one of them is pretty nice, and it's completely forged. The other 2, they're real utilitarian. I'll just be doing a little bit of MIG welding on them, and these are not for things of beauty. The reason why I make these, and I make a lot of these, is I've discovered that while I have really nice fire pokers that are decorative, these are really simple ones. A lot of people want for their wood stove in the basement, or their pellet stove, or their fire pit outside, where they don't necessarily want a more costly, more fancy fire poker. And I make these out of rebar. A lot of people get upset when you forge things out of rebar, but I forge these out of rebar, and it kind of, when they're on my display with my fancier fire pokers, it kind of lets people know that this is the lower end fire poker, and it's something that's worked for me well for several years. But I'm going to show you the ends, so hopefully you can put this together with a project for yourself and have some fun with it. But let's get some metal on. The forge isn't quite up to temperature, but I wanted to tell you at this point that the material I'm using is 3/8 rebar. The first fire poker type that I'm doing, I actually use 2 pieces of steel. One of them will be forged and then cut off and welded onto the other piece, and we'll go through that process now. This is the piece that will not be cut off. We're going to bring it to not as sharp of a point. All we're really doing with that, and we will refine it on the anvil. Okay, this is the main end of the fire poker. All we're doing here is just kind of dressing that tip a little, just getting it straight. And that's all the forging on this one. Now, while it's not necessary to use a power hammer, if you've got one, I recommend you do. Just basically quickly drew that to a point. That's all there is to that step. Okay, this is the piece that is going to be cut off and welded. Just put a slight curve in it like that. That's all you've got to do. Okay, here are 2 pieces. This is the one that's not going to be cut. This one will be cut. I'll mark it with my soapstone, just eyeball it. I'm going to cut it right there, and then we'll weld it. Okay, it's cut. I've got my pieces laid out. I'm going to MIG this real quick and show you the result. Okay, not the most attractive weld I've ever done by any means. Dear God, that's terrible. But anyway, you get the point. It's welded on there. It's now a fire poker. Okay, this one also starts with a dull point. This with a hammer on the anvil, but that's all there was to just bringing it to a dull point. Okay, now we're going to bring it to the anvil. start bringing this bad boy down. I'm going to throw another heat on there. Didn't quite have it hot enough. But I'm going to keep bending it right here until it's bent back over on itself. Okay, I quenched the pointed tip to make it a little easier on me. Still bending her around here. See where it's at right now. I'm going to throw it in for one more heat, and I'm going to use the power hammer. You don't have to, but I'm going to, and I'm going to force that just a little bit more. This is just real quick. That's it. I'm going to do a little MIG welding and then it'll go back in the forge to finish it up. Okay, now this bad boy is going to need to be welded down both sides to kind of fill in this little gap here. So let me get this done. Okay, now don't be scared to burn that weld in deep. You need to get this one pretty deep because you're going to come back. And now we're going to forge this to a point and kind of forge the sides down. Once again, you do not have to use a power hammer, but if you got one, use it. Heat it one more time and do a little bit of hammer work, but we're basically done with it. Okay, now this is just kind of refining it. Has their own way of doing these. I believe they're called a bird's head type. But there's the finished product on that one. Okay, last but not least, this one is totally cool. No machine. Crooked, but we're just bringing it to a point there. That's all we're doing, a kind of sharp point, not a dull point. Now I'm going to throw it back in, get a little more heat on it, and I'm going to flatten out about 5 inches of it. So let me get it one. Okay, just going to flatten this thing out now. I think. Okay, I'm going to try to finish this in one heat, so I'm going to go quick. You take the part you flattened out, take it 90 degrees, bring it right back to the horn. Take it down about, maybe a quarter of the way. You can see the shape we've done there. At this point, I like to bend that up just a bit. And give it that little bit of curve there, that little bit of spring. But that's the end of this one. Like I said, there's no forge welding or MIG welding. There's no welding of any kind. And this, you can pull with it, you can push with it, you can rake coals. This is a really good poker design. Okay, here are our finished products. Here are 3 poker ends with no forge welding. Now, these 2 have machine welding on them, but they can be forge welded. It's just for the outdoor fire pokers, the cheap fire pokers you're gonna make, you're gonna sell or use. It's a lot more economical time-wise to just MIG weld it, but these can be replicated with forge welding. I learned to make fire pokers by taking the end and bending it around and forge welding it onto the handle, and then cutting it and making the bend back like this. So it's definitely possible to do all of this right here, forge welding, especially the bird's head. It's probably the simplest to make forge welding. But I just wanted to show you some quick ways without forge welding, because a lot of people have trouble with it and get intimidated by it. So there are fire pokers that you can make without forge welding. And here's 3 of them. Okay, well, that's non-forge welding fire pokers. Now of course, that's not the only fire pokers you can make without forge welding. Just bringing a piece of steel to a point, putting a hook in it. Your imagination and the limits of what would be useful moving wood around or coals around in a fire, it's the only thing limiting you on a project like this. But I know some purists are going to be, well, you need to learn forge welding first. It's just not feasible for everyone to learn forge welding first. So this gives you some things to do if you're having trouble with forge welding. If you've hit a wall with forge welding, here's some options for you. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you liked the video. I hope you got something out of it. But if you liked the video, then hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more like it, please subscribe to the channel, Voodoo Tennessee. And anyway, y'all behave yourselves.